Hey everybody, JC here with another TNI toy review, and today we're going to take a look at the new Mattel DC Comics Multiverse 4-inch General Zod figure from the Superman 2 movies. This figure comes packaged in the same packaging that we've seen with all the figures in this wave. It's a blister card where the figure is clearly displayed. You've got up at the top, it tells us that this is a highly detailed and authentic figure for adult collectors. Then you've got the DC Comics Multiverse as well as the Superman 2 logo. Then you've got a picture of Zod from the Superman 2 movie, and then down below you've got the name of the character. Then on the back you have a little brief bio for Zod along with the same picture from the movie. Tells us that his real name is General Drew Zod. He's Kryptonian, general of the Kryptonian army. His abilities are solar enhanced abilities, super speed, and strength. Then we have a little brief bio about the multiverse line, and then other figures in this line. Mr. Freeze, which was released in the first wave, and then the Michael Keaton Batman and Michael Keaton Unmasked Batman that were released in the second wave along with Zod here. Okay, so let's get this figure open and take a look at what's inside. So here's a look at the figure outside of the packaging. As I mentioned before, this figure is based on the Terrence Stamp version of General Zod from the Superman 2 movie. And I've got to say right off the bat, I don't think the likeness is that good. It's not horrid. I mean, you could certainly at first glance, it looks like Terrence, but when you really kind of look at it, it doesn't. And I thought, if I remember correctly, the prototype that we saw at New York Comic Con last year just looked much better, more like the actor than this final version actually does. Again, it's not horrid, and for a 4-inch scale line, you know, I would say it's probably not too bad. Even though they do build this as an adult collector line, you know, I think this is really meant more for kids. Though I don't know how many kids are really that gung-ho about wanting a Zod figure from an old 80s movie, but nevertheless, I'm going to say the likeness is fair, but not great. The other thing I don't necessarily like about the figure is the paint they use for the skin. It's comes off looking very pale, you know, palish white. So I'm not terribly thrilled with the skin tone that they've used on the figure. The costume and the body though look fine. You've got the black, a little shinier black along the trim of the costume, and so no complaints there as far as the overall costume. The figure comes with one accessory, a bent M16 machine gun. It's actually, it's not as rubbery material as most of the accessories in this line are, surprisingly. So it does hold its shape, and again, it's meant to look bent. I think this is when he was using his I-beams on the cops or the soldiers' machine gun, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure, but you can put it in like a G.I. Joe's figure hand or something, and then make it look like Zod is bending it or something if you want. Obviously, Zod doesn't have any kind of I-beam effects on this figure, so it's hard to simulate that, but you still can make it look like he's using his super strength to bend it. And he does technically, if you want, he can hold it in either of his hands, though he holds it better in his right hand than in his left. The figure stands just a little over 4 inches tall, about 4¼ inches tall. He is not as tall as the Michael Keaton Batman, so that figure is, you know, Michael Keaton Batman is definitely taller than Zod. So articulation is pretty much similar to what we saw with the Michael Keaton Batman figure that we looked at yesterday. It's not fantastic articulation, it's not horrid, but let's just go over it real quick. Head can look left and right, doesn't really have much up or down movement at all. Arms are on standard ball hinge joints, so he can get the arm out good, and he's got good rotation. This figure does have a bicep swivel, whereas the Batman figure did not. Single hinged elbow, but he can bend the elbow pretty good. And then he's got a swivel at the wrist, but no hinges at the wrist. This figure also has the swivel at the waist, no ab crunch or anything like that, but again does have the swivel at the waist. It's got the weird T-crotch design, but is able to do the splits well, and get his legs out forward pretty good, about that much. And then you can get the legs kind of out and back, but with the way the butt is sculpted, you can't get the legs straight back. There's no thigh swivel on this figure, and then he's got a single hinged knee, so you can bend his knee about that much, and then there's no ankle articulation at all, which is a little disappointing. And then he's got two peg holes at the bottom of his feet. So that's my review. Overall, I've got to say this figure comes off as basically kind of boring. I mean, if you're a huge Zod fan from Superman 2, then you'll definitely probably want to pick this one up. But otherwise, it's just kind of a boring figure. And the other thing is, it's weird that they released Zod with two Batman figures as opposed to the Christopher Reeve Superman figure, which I guess is coming out in the third series of this Multiverse line. And then there's a Batman Penguin movie Penguin figure coming out, which I guess will also be in that third wave. So to me, it would have made much more sense had they released Zod and Superman together, and then put the Penguin with the two Batman figures. I don't know. That's just me, because without a Superman figure, there's really not much you can do with this one. Another cool idea would have been if maybe they had done a 3-pack with all 3 villains. But again, just on its own, this figure just comes off as kind of boring and not a whole lot you can do with it. And unfortunately, as I mentioned in the beginning, the likeness is just not great. So again, if you're a Zod fan, you probably still want to pick this one up. But otherwise, I'd say you could probably pass on this figure. I definitely like the Michael Keaton Batman figure better in the second series than Zod. So that's my review. I hope you enjoy it. Until next time, I'll check you later.